there was another conversation happening on Twitter, and it was interesting to me because I am an avid Bandcamp user and supporter. I buy music on Bandcamp. I sell a lot of music on Bandcamp, and I've been doing so for a long time. In fact, Bandcamp is an essential part of how I make a living as an independent artist. Um, so I'm always a little bit nervous whenever they get bought or sold. They seem to get sort of passed around a lot over the last few years, and we're always afraid somebody's going to shut them down because we won't really know what to do because there haven't been very many alternatives. But recently, I've been hearing about this app that's called Untitled. Now, first of all, Untitled is a terrible name to call your app. You should take whatever time you need to take to give your app a title, because calling it Untitled means it's going to be really hard to search for anything about it. Okay? That is not a good name for your app. But Untitled came into my life in like the function of it, it seemed to me, was that it's a way to upload tracks that you want to show people, to make playlists of that you can send to them directly. So Untitled came into my life through producers. I know quite a few producers who make beat packs, and instead of sending beats to your email or sending links to a Dropbox, they'll make a playlist on this Untitled app and send it directly to you, and you open it and listen to the beats or whatever. So my experience with it has been solely through that function. It's sort of how I use SoundCloud. Like I typically only use SoundCloud as like a way to organize my demos if I'm making a playlist for things to listen to, or to share music that I'm working on with collaborators, with management and all that. I use the back end of SoundCloud, but it seems like, or it seemed as if the function of Untitled was to have a way to do that that's specified for that purpose specifically. But recently, I'd say over the last couple of weeks, I started to see a discourse on Twitter where people were comparing Untitled to Bandcamp. So they were talking about Untitled as a way to sell music directly to consumers. And this sort of caught me off guard because I've never had an experience with Untitled where I could even see how there might be like a way to do e-commerce with it. I didn't see any evidence or any components that would make it look like or make me think that I could use this app as a way to sell music. It just seemed quite foreign to me. Dog Sweat, thank you for the gifted. But I'm starting to see this debate, and I'm like, oh, this is like weird. I mean, it's not weird that there's an app emerging as a contender to Bandcamp. It's weird that this app, for which I've only had the experience of it as a way to sort of share music behind the scenes, is being talked about as a way to engage in direct to consumer music sales in a way that I just didn't have any understanding of how that would work with that app. So this is the kind of stuff I was seeing. I will show you here on Twitter. This is Sir Mikey Rocks. And he asked this question: what makes the Untitled app allowing you to sell music and product different than Bandcamp? No trolling. I'm just uneducated. And it sort of represents where I was coming from too, at least in my thinking, because I was kind of confused on why anybody would even be comparing the two. They seemed very different. And one interesting thing about the discourse that I was seeing too was that this discourse wasn't like, oh, great, now there's another platform we have access to. Like, just in case something happens with Bandcamp, now there's this other option, right? That wasn't the discourse I was seeing. I was seeing discourse that looked more like fuck Bandcamp, Untitled is here. I'm like, that's that. It seemed as if a lot of the discourse was posing the discussion as if we can only use one option for selling music, and these pro Untitled people were saying that we should use this instead of Bandcamp, in a way that I also didn't quite understand. So like I said, much in the way that I was curious and a little confused, I felt like this post from Sir Mikey, I keep calling him Sir Mikey Rocks because that's what his handle is, but it's Mikey Rocks, was asking this question. What makes the Untitled app allowing you to sell music and product different than Bandcamp? No trolling, just uneducated. Ruben from Check the Rhyme says it's new. Unsubscribe says Bandcamp's design is and has been terrible, which is a very... Okay. I agree to that to some degree. I had a lot of conversation with this company that was trying to start a Bandcamp rival a few years ago. And I think they still are. I forgot the name of it. But they were asking me in like a sort of market research kind of way, like, what's the thing I dislike most about Bandcamp? And I would say the thing I dislike most about it is that they never update the UI really. Like, and it's kind of clunky, and the back end is not very intuitive, and they never really change it. And typically that's something that I'm okay with, except for the fact that in this case, I could tell that it could use a lot of improvement. It could use, like, for instance, I feel like it could use some components that help add a sense of community around people's releases and people's artistry. Like they've always had that little thing where people leave the comments when they've bought something and they support it, and they say X, Y, and Z supports it, and that person can leave a chat. But it's always been this little tiny box on the screen, and I'm like, I feel like there's so much room for that to be developed into something more vibrant that could really sort of build an on-ramp for consumers into like real artist communities, especially because the spirit of Bandcamp is so all about supporting artists. But they've never really worked on it. And I've always found that a little confusing, especially given that it keeps getting bought. And you would think that one of these people would be like, hey, we could probably make more money and sell more music if we added these components or whatever. So I agree to some degree that Bandcamp's design is not great, but I compare that to my experience of the Untitled app. And again, for my only experience with it being like producers sending me beats, I can't make heads or tails of how I would use it to sell music to people. There's just like, there's nothing on, in terms of the user experience that I've experienced where that would seem to be something that I would intuitively even think that I could use, that it could be used that way. So I'm not sure Bandcamp's design flaws make it where everybody should just go to Untitled. So again, that seems weird to me. People are using Untitled to store their work in progress music, pre-release mixtapes. It's a vibe mindset shift when you can go from that same app environment to fans of your music who want to support digital and physical. It's a way to capture the consumer in a less frictionless way. I think that there's some grammar problems there in terms of the point that this person is trying to make. And if that sort of back end music sharing connects to selling the music, happens in a way that is seamless, then that's great. And that is something that Bandcamp doesn't have, but I don't think Bandcamp should have that. I mean, Bandcamp is a store, and I like that about Bandcamp. When you go to Bandcamp, there's a big button that says pay for this, because that's how you know it's a store. And it's so important to have that because the rest of the industry has moved away from sales, right? Like the rest of the music industry has moved towards a model where consumers expect to just be able to listen to music, and that's the extent of their engagement with the product. But Bandcamp is still a store where you buy MP3s and own them, and it very much still looks like that. So I'm not necessarily missing a way to connect my work in progress music to sales on Bandcamp. I think the sales on Bandcamp are just fine. Better UX and UI, especially for mobile. I probably talk to more musicians than 99% of people alive about what's happening with their marketing, and Bandcamp seems to be going through an abandonment of and lack of enthusiasm. Not my experience at all. SoundCloud seems to be on the up again. Untitled is a next gen product competing with stale, and I'm guessing he's saying stale, a stale product in Bandcamp. I have not experienced that at all. I have not experienced that at all. I have not experienced a lack of enthusiasm with Bandcamp. I've experienced a very stable level of engagement with Bandcamp. And what I see from my purview is a lot more bigger artists making sure that when they put out releases, they have a presence on Bandcamp because they know people are there buying music. So I'm not experiencing a staleness. SoundCloud being on the up again, I don't know. I may not be enough of a consumer to have a handle on that. Y'all have to let me know if that's what's happening. If folks are just loving SoundCloud again. Like I said, I just use it all from the back end. Small Eyes says Bandcamp links are searchable. Untitled is not. Totally closed ecosystem. Bandcamp links are searchable. Untitled is not. Totally closed ecosystem. If you want it to be that just for your true believers. In that sense, very much like Bandcamp, except Bandcamp is owned by Epic Games. They haven't messed with Bandcamp yet, but no telling when they will. So that is an interesting distinction. Bandcamp links are searchable. Untitled is not. So you go to Bandcamp, there's a big search bar at the top. So if you're looking for music, if you're looking for music from Backwood Studios, you can just search it and go to it, and it will show you what's available. I haven't seen something like that on Untitled. Again, my experience with Untitled has just been the direct sending of links. So I haven't seen any sort of homepage environment where you would search for something. So that would be an important distinction as well. Ultra Klystron. Epic doesn't own Bandcamp anymore. A music licensing company owns them now. That's good. They'll probably leave them alone then. Okay, now this is an interesting answer in response to that last tweet. And this is from somebody named Milo HTIC. It's a closed ecosystem because it's a psy-op, not gonna lie. If I find a link, I send you a link. You find a link, you send next person link. That's how psy-ops work on a fundamental level. Rather than them coming online and marketing to us, which they're clearly doing right now, not gonna lie, and to a trained eye, it's quite obvious. So that's why they go their way instead. It's a genius. Artists got to understand that this is a tool to elevate, not what will bring you to. Okay, so it got a little muddy there near the end, but he was starting to make a point about what's been sort of odd around this whole discourse. And then something really funny happened. And remember, this is all coming off of a post by Mikey Rocks, right? So this is from January 14th. This is Meek Mill. Known anyway, what I was gonna say, because that's gonna sound messed up if I don't finish that sentence. I was gonna sarcastically say known, very small, up and coming independent rapper who depends very much on direct to consumer sales. Meek Mill wrote, "What Untitled did was incredible with music links for sale and vinyls you can buy direct from artists. We've been waiting on this for years." So you mean to tell me Meek Mill, who's been signed to major labels for the vast majority of his career, has been waiting for years for an app with direct music links and vinyls you can buy direct from the artist is what Meek Mill is trying to sell here with this tweet. And then Mikey Rocks responded with the perfect response. He said, I missed this the first time I asked about the Untitled app. Now I feel like there is a paid influencer campaign going on, because since when is Meek Mill starting to use words like incredible? And I think that this sort of gets at the heart of it. It seems as if Untitled is trying to enter the market by giving some folks the bag and having them talk positively about it, and having people like Meek Mill use words like incredible, which I could not imagine that Meek Mill often says in his personal life. I'm curious if Meek Mill has ever opened an Untitled link or sent one, or ever plans to sell a copy of a vinyl directly to anyone via the Untitled app. Chong Wizard, shout out Chong Wizard, said, who owns Untitled, which was an interesting question. So it's just various investors in capital: General Catalyst, Shine Capital, Looking Glass Capital, and leading angel investors. They received $20 million in venture capital funding, and those firms expect 100% returns, or 100 times returns, I should say. There's no universe where a $50 a year subscription and a 5% buyer fee are getting them there. So they are 100% just honeypotting artists to harvest their data for stuff like AI training. Okay, well that's even deeper than I thought that was going to say. Okay, let's see. And then right, because Bandcamp doesn't do this stuff. This is the most coherent. This is about Meek Mill. This is the most coherent sentence he ever wrote. Maybe I'm naive, but maybe it's a rising trend. Hype is very aesthetic. I don't think so. I really don't think so, because to me, none of this discourse has felt organic to me. This discourse has felt very much like company with money giving money to people with followings to talk about this, and a lot of these people, I think, are people who will never actually engage with this platform at all. Jay Versace, I respect Jay, but this was a dead giveaway for me. Algorithm showed me this tweet, and everything afterwards mentioned Untitled. It seems like a huge push to get a leg up over Bandcamp after they announced they're banning all forms of AI. Ironically, Untitled welcomes all AI. This is Jay Versace. Untitled has the potential to be the next biggest music streaming platform, which sounds like something that a person was paid to say. And then I did something that was kind of funny to me. Was I searched the words Untitled and incredible just to see what would come up. So this is Meek Mill's tweet. What Untitled did was incredible. With music links for selling vinyls you can buy direct from artists. I've been hip to Untitled since October, and now the industry is using it as a way to go direct to consumer. Incredible. Punch from TDE. And this one was funny because January 14th, out of nowhere, Punch writes, I like the idea of creating music, selling, buying, and owning. Something about that feels ... alive, lifelike, out of nowhere. And I don't know, this is funny to me because these are people who are like wholly into the standard music industry that to me do not depend on direct sales or are even interested in it in any way. So he posted that on the 14th. This was at 6 p.m. and then 8 p.m. Let's see Untitled. And starts to try to push Untitled a little bit. To all Indian underground artists, and this is the same day, January 14th, Untitled might be the way to go. I'm trying to see if there's any more here. Untitled is about to shake the tables in the music industry. The labels and streaming platforms are about to be in trouble. So there seems to be a little, a little gamesmanship at hand here, and you know, to all of the homies out there, I would just say keep your media literacy up. If something smells funny, it usually is. I'm here for there to be as many options as possible in terms of um, ways that artists can sell directly to consumers and sort of get around the entire streaming ecosystem, and have some control and build their fan bases organically and be paid for their music. But I think any messaging that's trying to tell you there can only be one option, that's not for us. That's not by us, and that's not for us. That's somebody else. That's somebody else's money talking. Because for artists, it's good to have as many options as possible. And that's sort of the bottom line. Anybody trying to push one or the other, that's somebody else's agenda at play. So just make sure we keep that in mind. And for those that don't know, this is the morning show. Like and subscribe, homie, friend. It's free. Stop playing.